Okay.
Hey, family, what's up? This is Doug Reed of the Let's Go Show. I am excited for this next guest. And what I'm going to do, we're just going to get right into it. You'll learn more about him as we speak. So, how you doing today, Troy?
I'm doing very well, Doug. I'm honored to be a part of the Let's Go program and looking forward to hopefully dropping some nuggets here.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, like I said, let's get right into it. Who is Troy Wilkins?
Wow. So I guess I'll start with I'm a native Memphian. I am the youngest of three. I have two older sisters, and we were reared in a two-parent home where both of our parents were professionals, both college graduates, and as a result, we kind of got a little grounding from what I have come in my later years to recognize as a true solid foundation with kind of um, the best of both worlds, having mom and dad. Of course, the only thing that I missed would be having a brother, a biological brother. I did not have that. And so most of my childhood was spent um, with my parents because my sisters, even though my sisters are um, 3 years, 2 years respectively older than I was what was the baby. And they would say I was spoiled and the whole nine. I disagree. But so I'll kind of fast forward. So we went through the childhood. Of course, my mom was um, choir. She was a singer. My dad was a singer. He was a deacon in the church. She was very active in the church. So as a result, so were we. So all three of us grew up with a real strong um, religious Christian background. And even in that religious background, each of us found ourselves wanting to explore something that I guess we thought would be a little bit more fun.
Yeah.
And so as we grew, um, we um, kind of went and did, we went to college. And um, when we did that, actually, the three of us became a little distant from each other because our lives kind of took different paths and we were at different schools. And you didn't get to see them as much, you didn't come home as much. And I was the closest to home, so I came home more. Um, and
Yeah,
then my oldest sister
of
kind of got,
course, being the baby, you would come home more, right?
well, yeah, yeah, yeah.
Well,
Uh,
let me say this.
Go ahead. Sure.
I don't know if you know, I'm the baby of my family.
Did
Um,
not know that.
yeah, the youngest of five.
So that's why
Now,
we couldn't.
yeah, and so let me ask you. So being the baby, so you always, like you said, spoiled or even picked on. um, Now that you've transitioned, being older, do you feel people still look at you? Maybe your sisters or older family members or people that knew you during those years. Do you feel that they still look at you that way in a sense?
Um, no, and I'll tell you why. Um, so our parents passed away 13 months apart unexpectedly. Um, so my dad first and then my mom. And I was 28 when that happened. I think before that, yes, I think my sisters still saw me as the little boy. And you know,
Yeah.
they felt a sense of protecting me and, um, doing things that big sisters would probably do. However, when my mother passed away in February of 1996, the tide shifted drastically because my sisters were not spiritually where I was. And so our response to the deaths was totally different.
Wow.
And I say response to the deaths was different because neither of them um, could go with me to the funeral home to make any of the arrangements, write any of the programs, pick any of the stuff that, the final stuff. So I had to go alone. Um, and even going alone, I I kind of took on the whole gamut of, you know what, I'll just pay for it too. Because that was because they were where they were, I kind of transitioned into the big brother.
Yeah.
And it wasn't desired and it wasn't expected. It was just necessary. And so from that moment to this one, so that's been what, 27, 28 years ago, everything shifted. And not only with my sisters, but it even shifted across my entire family because everyone then kind of started, and they didn't even, most of my family didn't even know some of those details I just shared about who
Mm-hmm.
kind of took the high road because I never talked about it. But the transition of me becoming the big brother happened. And so today, like I say, 28 years later, I'm truly the big brother. Um, and I'll say this because I laugh about it. My oldest sister, when I moved, she moved and she moved around the corner from me
Wow.
because she said my home reminded her so much of our parents' home in the sense of how it felt
Mm.
that she wanted to be closer and she felt closer to our parents at my house. So 28 years later, I'm the only person that cooks. Everybody comes to my house for every holiday. Um, it's just I feel so used. No, I'm just
Yeah.
kidding.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah. So let me ask you this, and actually it brings us into what you're doing now. Real quick, what school did you graduate from? College you graduated from?
so my undergrad work was Mississippi State, which is about 3 hours from Memphis. And then undergrad was in business, and I received my master's in counseling from Ohio Christian University. I'm currently at Walden University working on my PhD, which is overwhelming at this point in my life because now I've taken on a few other things. And so
Yeah.
now life has gotten a little complicated. But that's kind of the educational side. And I don't know if you want me to go into kind of career wise, how that kind of
Well,
led
let me
me.
say this. I mean,
Okay.
congratulations on that, and even going back to the story that you shared in reference to your parents. 'Cause sometimes that's difficult, but I think where we lead into with spiritual maturity, I think we're able to get through it. Even though sometimes the burden is rough, the burden is heavy, but being in the position that you are, like, what are you currently doing right now? Where are you working and what are you doing? What led you there?
Um, so currently, I am senior pastor, senior servant at a local church here in inner city Memphis. 10 years in now. July was 10 years that I've served at that church. I'm also director of operations at a charter school, which happens to be the first charter school in the state of Tennessee. So it's 20 years old. This is the 20th year. And I also am a part time funeral director at one of the local funeral homes here. Um, so
Your
that kind
plate
of
is full.
spells out, yeah, that kind of spells out, that piece and then, all the other things that kind of go
So
with each one of those,
yeah.
but there's a common denominator
Hmm.
there, and that is a spirit of servitude. I feel it's necessary, and I feel that's my true assignment and calling in life is to serve. And so, just so happened where my at the school, it's walking distance from the church where I pastor.
Great.
So I'm kind of doubling in the same community, um, and in many ways with the same group of families and children. So it makes it sometimes it makes it a little bit more difficult, but then it kind of makes it easier because I'm familiar with that. So then, of course, the funeral home takes on that whole piece of, as I say so often, I'm there working because that's typically a person's lowest time of their lives.
Hmm.
And being there, it's not that I have so much to say, and not that I say anything, but many times just the presence is important.
Yeah. And let me
Um,
ask you with this,
sure.
because you said your church is in the inner city of Memphis, and just like so many cities around the country with gun violence and gentrification, and I'm pretty sure the same thing is happening in Memphis. Now, what you also said that in regards to the school, it was a first. And anytime I hear a first, I always think about Black history. How will that legacy continue as we move forward? Does your community, because you're serving your community, and I think a lot of times when Black history is made, especially in our communities, I don't think they realize the legacy that it leaves behind, or the legacy and the foundation of how it started. Do you think your community understands the legacy that that particular school has?
No. And not only does the community not understand, but even the frontliners, the parents who bring their children here. I think we have done a good job of celebrating that and expressing that and um, making that kind of information available. But information is only as valuable as you're willing to go get it.
Yes.
So I think most parents, because here comes the stigma and the stereotype when you're talking about inner city, um, there are some barriers that exist in inner city areas, like literacy, like economic development, like um, just true mentorships around raising children. And so I think the legacy gets lost, and almost as in other cases, the legacy doesn't become important until the legacy is the legacy.
Mm.
While we're in it, I don't know that it's a legacy. I don't know that we see it as that. But
Hmm.
I think, once it's gone or passed on, and then people start to share some of the things that we never sought to find out, then I think, oh, then it becomes, oh, I didn't know that. I didn't, oh, nobody ever told me that. Well, it's the same information that's there now. But I think people, parents come and drop their kids off every day and pick them up every day without any association to, wow, this is my child, because we're K through 5. And so pre-K through 5, actually. So I don't think they ever associate with, wow, I'm dropping my child off at the oldest charter school that's still open, because we've had
Yes.
several in our city that's closed, that's still open and still growing and still, and then the model that our executive director has is that it's the presence of Black. So we have 17 Black men here because every classroom has a Black man.
Mm.
And it means that there may be a lead teacher that's a woman, but that means the co-teacher is a man, and vice versa. If the lead teacher is a man, then so there's a man-woman, African American man-woman association in every classroom, and I don't really think parents even have any idea what it means to their young boys, especially
Yeah.
that they come to school every day and see professional Black men operating in a space. They're not cussing. They're not, they see something that's probably totally different from their world. And so that's why I say I don't know that parents currently appreciate it, and nor does the community,
Yeah.
because I don't think people value it at this moment.
So that brings me back, and I can only, and I'll ask you, but I can only think about myself as I reflect back and try to recall when I saw the first black teacher, well, more importantly, the first black male teacher. That's interesting. So I don't think I actually saw that until I got to middle school. And actually, I was uh, where we were, they were talking about uh, segregation in the schools back then. We were part of that integration into the schools in the 70s. And I don't think, well, I know I didn't see a black male, African American male, as a teacher until then. What was your experience like? When do you recall seeing your first black African male teacher?
Wow. And what's so interesting, Doug, I never even thought about it till you
Well, I
just
didn't.
asked
I never thought
that
about it either until
question.
you just told me about that history of that church, and this is why even this discussion is so important to people who view it, and so important to our listeners.
I think the first encounter was I was a junior in high school when I saw a Black man, and he was teaching us driver's ed. Um, and so I guess I'll throw this caveat in there. I went to a school that was in suburban Memphis and predominantly white. So, and that was from kindergarten through 12. I went to the same school, K through 12. And I didn't see, yeah, and I never saw, I guess I'll stretch it because now you got my mind just like really blown, because I have never had a Black male doing any kind of instructional teaching through any of my collegiate career, or even in secondary education. Like I said, driver's ed, I did consider that a class, right? Um, so I didn't have any African American teachers.
So, I mean, and it kind of goes back in our pre-discussion before this, and you asked me, do I understand now that my voice matters? So I'll throw that back on you. Do you understand how important those Black American, African American teachers in that school are to our community? I
Well, I
think you
must
got. I
confess,
think you got it initially, but as we reflect back now, there's a whole lot of history there.
I must confess, I am completely mind blown because I really, and I think that speaks to your earlier question about the legacy. And I think what has just happened is this epiphany that has occurred is that I'm literally sitting in something that is beyond normal and his history that I'm looking at every day. Um, and it just kind of makes me, it makes me want to kind of stop and make sure that I'm capturing the moment so that my ability and my platform that God has given me to share, that I can share this from a space of experience. I can come to it unexperienced, one, because I didn't grow up in it, and then to work in it every day. Because even as one of the school administrators, you know, so we have four administrators, and it's 2 men and 2 women. So for me, um, I've never seen myself as an administrator because I'm always in the trenches. You know, I eat lunch with the kids and I want to know who they are. I want to know who their parents are. I want to know what they did for fall break. And,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and so some of them call me dad. And, you know, those things are endearing to me.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but of course, I have to make sure that we don't get that, you know, I don't want kids to get that confused. I'm kind of the school dad. If you want me to be your school dad, that's fine.
Yeah.
Um, but those kinds of things, um, just, you know, just it's the fuel that gets me up every day to come
Yeah.
because I recognize that um, me not being here on any given day is an opportunity for me to miss an opportunity.
Ooh,
So my getting up to get here, you know, is driven by let me be an experience for somebody today. And because
absolutely.
these, you know, these Black boys in these communities, not just in these communities, but any community,
Across the country.
you know, yeah, they're coming with so many, I mean, just, just heartbreaking
Yeah.
um,
So let me say this
family
then.
stories.
Let me say this. I mean, I don't know, and I'm going out on a limb, and first thing came to mind when you was reflecting, I was thinking about that old saying, older generations used to say, "Won't he do it?" Won't he do it? So I don't know how long the school has been around, and I'm gonna go out on a limb because I'm thinking the next milestone that school has. I don't know whether it's 50 years, 100 years, whatever. But the next big milestone, I'm going to attend.
Wow.
I'm going to be there in celebration with you because I realize the legacy. I realize the history. So it'll be up to me, even as I do this podcast and this videos, it'll be up to me to keep this thing going, to let the masses know. I mean, you're right there in Memphis, and just like anywhere else, people just don't realize it because we're doing things every day. We're doing everything's a rush. That's just what the world is of today. But when you guys stop and make note of that milestone and celebrate it, I'll be there. So I just want to
So
put
I
that out there.
appreciate it. And I think there's that opportunity is going to happen probably sooner than you think because as we are in our 20th year,
Mm,
we started this year just trying to, you know, recalibrate from just full-fledged school from, you know, the pandemic. And so all of our grand ideas that we had this year thus far have not happened because we've just been just trying to keep the, you know, keep the water flowing. And so, you know, we'll step back and you know, probably in the spring, probably after Christmas, we'll probably come in with a vengeance, trying to make sure we're celebrating in the way that we feel our students deserve in our community. And so I will definitely take
yeah,
you up on that offer to make sure that whatever we're planning, that I include you to figure out what's going to be best for you and how we can incorporate.
yeah. Well, I'll tell you this: whatever the case is, or whatever it is, I'll be there. Whatever capacity you need me, you know, I'll help clean up afterwards. Whatever, whatever it is,
Such a
I'm
kind soul, absolutely. I
there.
appreciate that, and I promise you, I will keep that forever in my head
Yes,
as
sir.
we move forward with the planning.
So I mean, now we're talking about plans. So what are your plans for the future?
What are my plans for?
The future.
Oh wow. Well, I think one of the pieces that I missed in the conversation is that I have one child, one daughter who's 19, who is completely beyond words, my world. Um, she is everything that I do and try to do and be is for her. Um, so my future is kind of shifting, and I say that because um, sometimes organizations, or should I say organized groups, can hinder the scope of your work. And I say that because, as you go and serve in these public roles, there are many times when those roles can, in many ways, limit your ability to expand because of the compression of the calling. And so for me, I don't know. I have a desire to do international mission work. Um, I'm a little afraid of it, I'll admit. I'm just not sure I can sleep, outside for 2 weeks. That just hurts me to think
Well,
about. Not
let me
shower
help you
for a
out.
day.
Yeah, let me help you out. So, um, I was in the military, so yeah, and I was, of course, a lot younger, and I can visualize in basic training, visualize when they told us, "Now we're not sleeping under the tents tonight." First of all, that was my first camping trip, so to speak. Out in the woods. I'm from Cincinnati, Ohio, so I remember just looking up and all I seen was stars, and I'm thinking, "Oh my God, what did I get myself into?" And of course, throughout the years being in the military, and I'll say this, even in those spaces, being out in the woods, not to say you will be out in the woods, but it's some of the most peaceful times because it's you're away from everything. I truly see you doing that. I truly see you stepping on faith to do it, and I truly see God guiding your footsteps and continuing to be the light under your path.
Well, and that sounds probably some degree of vanity when I say that, but it's the truth. And you brought up something else that has been etched in my brain. So, um, in 2015, I had the pleasure of being chosen to participate in Leadership Memphis. And I'm sure in your city you have something similar. It's an organization, it's a nonprofit organization that allows executives that are nominated or that are chosen by whatever, your boss, your organization, whoever, to participate in a cohort. And um, the cohort that I was a part of was juvenile justice. And so the juvenile justice cohort, I was recommended. I don't even know who recommended me, but Leadership Memphis accepted me. And so our job was to kind of look at the juvenile justice system in Tennessee and figure out how to make it more um, kid friendly, recognizing that the system, can work against our children. So I said all that to say, fast forward. So one of our retreats, we had to go to this secluded area of Alabama, no TV, no phone service. We were taken by charter bus and dropped off. Day 3, we had to hike 7 miles. At the end of the hike, we had to sit in the wilderness for 3 hours. We could not sit near each other. The only thing we could do was the person closest to you had to be in sight, but they could not be in sound. So they were far enough, but yet close enough. And in those 3 hours, you had to do what you kind of just described. You had to kind of self-reflect and figure this out because it was just you and God and whoever else you want, with all the spiders and things crawling up on your legs. And, it was just, it was an experience that looking back on it was real pivotal in me seeing life and my worldview being a little different. Because for the first 2 hours, I was angry that we were out there. I mean, I was literally, just furious. And I couldn't figure out why they wanted us to do that. I just thought this is inhumane. Why are we doing this? And so I guess after hour 2, I started to focus on this mountain that was in front of me. And all of a sudden, I just started crying. I just, as they said, my allergies just got all out of whack. And I was focused on this. It's at that time that God spoke to me very clearly. It said, you're here because I need you to be here so that you can see that these things that are in front of you are not as big as you think. And there is a path over the mountain. But as you look at it, you can't see that because you're focused on what's in eye view and you're not looking at what you can achieve. Because, anyway, so for the last hour, needless to say, was tears. And then the last thing that they wanted us to do at the end was to write ourselves a letter about how we felt and mail it to ourselves, but don't open it for 6 months and see if you're in the same place.
Wow.
So for you to just say that kind of helped me to realize that powerful moment that even though I didn't like the experience, I love the outcome. Mm. So it has really helped me see, and as I plan my future, while it's a bit fuzzy, I think there's more of me to give back.
Yes.
Because I think even though I'm exhausted and, tired that's the world I live in, which it is what it is. But I still think there's parts of me that I've not given enough of. And, I think I've been able to create some opportunities. As I say, the PhD for me, Doug, has nothing to do with a title. It has all to do with being invited to tables that I wouldn't normally sit at.
Wow.
Because people see it as something that. So I think moving forward, my job is to continue the work in some space, but to broaden the work when it comes to missions and kind of taking this Jesus message as well as the message of hope, which is really the Jesus message in a nutshell, to those who have not yet heard of him. Because all of the hope lies in that relationship. And even though we sit down and say, oh, everybody's heard of Jesus, no, there are people in parts of the world that's never had that degree of hope presented to them. And so it's just like I tell some of my friends, you guys, and I include myself, all of us, we moved out of inner city Memphis and we ought to all be made to move back because the people that need us most are the people in inner city Memphis. In my neighborhood, I don't have any young black boys, so if I see one walking, whatever, it's rare. Right. But where I'm needed most and where our work has a greater yield is in the spaces of the people we're trying to run from. Yeah. So I think I've got to do a better job, not only personally, but encouraging my friends that, so I have some kind of influence over.
Yeah. Well, I'll say this. Well, first I'll say thank you for sharing it. Then I'm going to give something to you also because, there's boundaries. And I know a lot of times it's hard for you to put up those boundaries because you have so many people pulling for you. But that sound like that description that you just gave may be something that you can do coming up when you create a boundary, when you have to take a break and find you a space of peace. Maybe you and the missus and just for a couple of days because can't
I don't really like the fact that you can get in my head before we got on this podcast. I really don't like that. So that is truly a weakness. Self-care and boundaries.
I already know,
is
Troy.
a complete.
I already know.
My executive director says, listen, you can't keep rolling over these days. You have got to. And she said, it's not about anything other than what you just described. You just got to do it. You just
So
cannot
so
continue
so
at
so let
this
me
rate.
say this. So that's what we call what? Confirmation? So, me and my wife had this discussion because I said there's no confirmation if there's no revelation, there's no confirmation, and there's no communication with God. My sir, Troy
Oh,
Wilkins, you have just received that confirmation.
I got it. And I'm telling you, I got it. I promise you, I heard it before you said it, but I will be transparent to tell you it is the hardest thing.
I know it
It
is.
is the absolute hardest thing. Um,
Yeah. And you know what? Uh, we get kind of deep here, but Jesus was that kind of servant. He died for us, serving his people. All the namesayers, everybody.
I mean,
But
you just kind of, and I'm looking across, I'm looking back and I'm also looking forward. Just about 2 months ago, I had a weekend plan to get away. And the Sunday morning, I walked in church, and the chairman of the deacons came to me and said, "Can I see you in your office?" And I said, "Sure." And he said, "What, what are you doing?" And I said, "What are you talking about?" He says, "Why are you here?" And I said, "Uh, I work here." And he said, "Why are you doing this to yourself?" And I just stared at him and I said, "I don't really know." And I said that to say I know people around me see what you just um, confirmed. Um,
and I'll put it this way, and I'll just say it even as it comes to me, because you told me, you work helping out as a funeral director. Troy, people want to give you your flowers while you're here, and I'll just leave it at that.
where'd you get that from?
From my
Where,
father,
where'd you get? Where did? What?
from my father, from your father.
So how do you? I mean, how do you know?
How do we all know, Troy? We don't.
How-
I say it all the time when you ask me in the beginning, like, do you think your voice matters? I'm like Moses, like going to the top of the hill, like, no, Lord, I mean, what do you want me to say? He said, don't you worry
So
about what I
again, I
say.
mean, how do you know? And I know this may be taking us off, but how do you realize? How do you know?
I
So
just,
I mean, I literally just I told you early on in the conversation, this is 10 years at the church. They planned, big one to celebrate in big ways. And then me, I don't like that. And they know that. And we've gone through this for 10 years now. I don't have anniversaries and stuff like that because I don't like that. I'm not sitting in any borrowed chairs. Don't bring a borrowed lamp from anywhere. We're not doing that because that's not who I am.
yes, sir. I
And
know the feeling.
yeah, so 10 years in, I said to them, hey, we can do milestones. This was 10 years ago. So we got to 10 years, and here I am saying, they had some elaborate plans, and everything they came up with, I said, I kind of pushed back. Um, and so they kept it very simple, which to me was enough. I didn't want anything greater. But I remember the chairman of trustees saying to me, you tied our hands. And she has no idea how that burned within, because it's what you just said. Um, Even though I don't particularly enjoy that, I think people enjoy wanting to do it.
Yeah.
And so that too kind of changed my whole moving forward. I'm going to try my best not to be so rigid when it comes to, I
Well,
just don't,
well
it's a most uncomfortable space.
yeah, I'll say it like this because I think you're like me in some cases. I can give attention, but I can't receive it, and it's tough for me.
It
You
is,
know.
listen, it
Yeah.
is,
So
I'll give it all day long, but
mhm.
don't try to give it to me. And it's gonna,
But guess what, Troy? I'm gonna tell you this. This time. This time. You're a legacy. You are, and I'll say it on. And it looks like it's coming up on every podcast that I talk to people. We are the new history. This is a new chapter being wrote. These are the 200 years after us that people are going to reflect back on.
wow. Um, that's challenging.
Mm-hmm.
Um, in so many ways.
And you know, and I'm not saying it's going to happen overnight, but you know, the seed has been planted, um, and you know, we'll take our time and water that seed, and we'll watch the growth.
So you're consenting to doing it for you as well?
Absolutely, we're in agreement. Can we sit in agreement?
Well, I can try. I can do.
That there it is, right there.
Yeah,
You just said it.
I can work at it
You can try.
because as my birthday is coming up, and this is so
Uh,
we've
all,
been married 29 years, and
all this is just falling. So I'm gonna tell you right now, Troy. You don't even have a choice at this point. You already spoken to an existence. You don't have a choice at this point. You don't. Like I say, just throw your hands up. Well, matter of fact, when you throw your hands up, just scream hallelujah.
I just I hadn't been able to do that. I just and we've already started this conversation around what do you want to do for your birthday? Well, you know me, nothing.
Mm-hmm.
That's not. Surely we're not going to do this again. But we laugh about that. But my wife and my daughter, it really, really, because I do so much for their birthdays, way beyond, and
Absolutely.
I don't even want to go to McDonald's for mine.
Yeah.
And
Well.
they just say, "This is you are just,
Yeah. I'm gonna tell you, take your time. Uh,
it won't happen this year because it's 2 weeks away. So I'm not ready. It may be next year."
well. We're not gonna. You know how they say, we're never gonna say never. We're never gonna say never.
Oh my God.
What I will say is to go back and reflect about this conversation. Go back and think about the plans, the plan, the seeds you have already planted. Think about the roots. Think about the foundation. Think about what gift God has given you, and then we all know that it's a gift of, as people receive things, He wants you to receive it because he wants to re-energize you. He wants to give you more energy. He wants to give you the confirmation that He knows that His Son needs. Only thing you got to do is receive it. That's probably one of the hardest things to do, especially as a pastor or clergy within our communities. One of the hardest things for them to do is actually to receive, especially we're talking about a real community leader, not a politician, not someone that all they want to do is want the accolades and handshakes. I'm talking about a real community leader, and that you are, sir. So I want you to think about it.
I'll consent to think about it. Absolutely. And
All
then
right.
I'll keep you posted on
Oh, please do.
any progress.
Please do. Please do. You know, yeah,
Yes.
I'll just say that. Please do. And we're gonna go right into what we called our let's go finale.
Okay.
This is probably gonna be some. This is probably gonna be some confirmation as well. So on our finale, what I'll do is I'll say a word, and you give me a word that actually comes to your mind.
I
Uh,
thought so highly prior to this.
I know.
Now you've just gotten so deep in.
So you ready?
One word. I'm giving one word answers,
Yeah.
or am I
Uh,
giving Just
I'll I'll give you two, but mainly one.
okay.
I'll give you two.
Okay.
All right. Family,
Love,
community,
service,
church,
hope,
black men,
misunderstood,
generations,
failed,
understanding.
um, learning,
Fatherhood,
example,
dreams,
suppressions,
gifts,
unnecessary,
legacy.
treasures.
Well, sir, I thank you for coming to the Let's Go show with Doug Reed. But before we go, is there any words of wisdom that you would like to give our listening audience?
Oh, oh, wow. Treasure the people that God has allowed you to share earth with. There are values in the most discounted person. Um, you know, don't underestimate the power of love. Don't limit love. Don't put love in a box. Um, and love is only as good as the definition is to the person you're loving.
Wow. Well, ladies and gentlemen, this has been the Let's Go show with Doug Reed. And you know what I say? Let's go, baby. Peace. I'm out.